WLEE News Talk 990. You are listening to the Community Radio Show.
Good morning. You are listening to the Community Radio Show. It is November 10th, 2012. Bukhari Sirraj here with co-host Muhammad Hadi. How you doing, man?
Well,
all right. It's been an interesting.
Don't forget the man that makes it sound so good, Selvin.
Yes, gotta give props to the engineer. He's definitely working the boards for us every week, keeping us in line. Numbers to call in, 788-0990. That's 788-0990. Let me just remind you guys, this is a call-in show. We talk about what you want us to talk about, along with our issues. You know,
exactly.
we have our agenda, but, you know, if you got any other questions or comments about, Islamic issues or who we are, what we're about, or what we're doing, hey, give us a call. Say hey. So what's on the agenda, man?
Whatever's on and a lot of things, man. You know you don't like my agenda.
I mean, you know. It's all right sometimes.
It's all right sometimes. I'm the brains behind the operation. Well, welcome. You're listening to the Community Radio Show on WLEE News Talk 990, Saturday the 10th of November.
Did he just reiterate what I just said?
I did, yeah. There's a marathon going on downtown.
Avoid Broad Street.
Avoid downtown, Broad Street.
Mm-hmm.
And if I can say this.
Oh, boy.
Speaking of stereotypes. Only white people and Kenyans running marathons. All right. I got to put that out there. I work with a couple of dudes, really nice guys, and they're just crazy runners. It's like, really?
I could never get into it.
Really? I'm like.
Sprinting is one thing. Running like 10 miles for no apparent reason.
It's not 10 miles. It's 27.5 miles.
The one here is 27.
It's a full marathon.
Wow, that's crazy.
I think there's a full marathon, there's a half marathon, and then there's like all the stragglers. I guess it's the 10K or something like that, 6.6 miles or something like that. But, so avoid Broad Street. And I wanted to, give it up to Selvin because, thanks to him, I got a call from the station yesterday reminding me of this, or else I'd still be out there trying to get around downtown, across Broad Street.
And you would just be talking to me right now. We have a nice old conversation by ourselves.
So what'd you think of the elections?
I mean, it was cool.
How late were you up? How late were you up?
I was up the whole time. Why, I have no idea. But it's always kind of like, okay, I want to see what his speech is going to be like. And I want to see what, Obama's speech is going to be like. But, it was interesting. Fox News did what Fox News does and constantly in denial.
Did you watch it in live?
Yeah. I mean,
when they called
flipping
Ohio?
Around. Yeah.
That was golden television. That was gold. Because I think they were the ones that first called it. And they just had a little conniption.
Yeah. I forgot the name of the analyst that was like, nope, rerun the numbers.
Carl Rove.
Yes, there you go, Rove. And that was pretty.
The best line of the night was, "Is this what you as a Republican do to make yourself feel better?" Or, and that was coming from another, right-wing hack. So that was pretty good. Yeah, what delayed the whole thing was because Romney didn't have a concession speech prepared.
I mean, that's his fault. That just shows he would have had a lot of other things non-prepared because he just would have had an expectation that would have fell through.
I want to know what his victory speech would have been like.
I think
I'm waiting for someone to leak that, please.
If
there's anyone out there that's listening that has that knows someone that is friends with someone's cousin that worked in the Romney campaign, I know you're out there. Please tell them to release that. I would be golden.
And it's funny if he didn't even have a victory speech.
I think no. Listen,
it's like, I'm just gonna speak from the heart.
Since the day he graduated from Harvard Law or whatever law school he was in, he had a victory speech for when he became governor of a state and when he became president of the country. All right, and when I'm sure he has a victory speech as well when they were going to print his picture on the dollar bills or something too. But
it's interesting. Looking at the numbers here for Obama. 70% of American Jews actually backed Obama, according to two national exit polls, and 68% of American Muslims back to Obama. So I don't know what happened to that other 32%. I guess they probably went independent or just didn't vote, most likely. But I couldn't see a lot of Muslims back in Romney. That would have been really interesting. But if you did, hey, you voted, you lost. On to the next thing.
It's all right.
But I mean, we're gonna see, and you got to understand, at least from my point of view, I'm not one of those, Obama is, the great savior of the country or anything right now. I mean, it's more so, I think my vote for Obama was more so to make sure that Romney did not win, because I think that would have really had a lot more problems, that we would have been facing as a country, altogether. So
I think that's interesting because a lot of stuff I read, particularly from Muslims, were talking about that they didn't necessarily vote for Obama,
right,
as opposed to voting
against
Romney.
Yeah, but it still had to count, because I mean, granted, you could go with an independent, but at the end of the day, it's kind of like, look, they don't have a chance at winning. And I still think, a wasted vote is a vote not cast. So I'm not saying that anybody wasted their vote if they went independent. I still respect that. But when it came down to the numbers, it's like, look, it was going to be between Obama and Romney. And if I wanted to have my input at Romney not winning, it had to go towards Obama, But, hey, if you supported Romney or you supported independent, that's what it is. But we have a new old president, second term, so.
So you're saying that we have a coalition of Muslim and Jew in America voting?
Well, yeah, kind of, to a degree, I wonder what the actual total numbers is for that, in terms of the actual, but I don't think we'll ever get that, at least not anytime soon. They're still crunching numbers now,
For Florida.
Yeah, Florida just needs to. What do they still cast paper ballots?
Yes.
Or
you know how many pages
that's the problem.
You know how many pages?
It's 2012, man.
You know how many pages there are?
How many?
8, 9, something like that. Yeah.
That's ridiculous. That's especially for so many elections to come down to Florida. It's like, can y'all get a normal system? You come into Virginia, you tap the little buttons, boom, you're done in like 30 seconds, and it's electronic. It doesn't have to necessarily go through, all these, people that's counting. It's kind of just pops out.
I mean, I don't know if they manually count it, but it's paper ballot, and there's a lot of questions on there, and
Well, somebody got to feed the paper into the machine.
That's true.
I mean, because it sounds like Scantron,
That's true. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Come on now, it's 2012.
At 9:30 at night, there was a 700 vote difference between Romney and Obama in Florida, and I was like, "Oh God, please, no, no, let's not have a repeat of 2000. Let's just not,
Yeah, but it's all good.
So, so it was. So give you the story. So I was working at the. I was doing helping out the Asian American Society, doing exit polling at the Midlothian High School precinct, which was kind of deep in the heart of Chesterfield County, and we had George Allen show up, and he was just buttering people up,
Yeah.
But there was, interestingly enough, is the national exit polling that they do. There's a guy there that was actually doing that, so I filled that out. So when they talk about exit polling and nationally, what happened, I feel I contributed to that. But interestingly enough, I think it was fascinating as kind of how the minorities collectively, how all that fell through for the Republicans, particularly with the Latino vote. And the Muslim vote, because Latinos and Muslims are, generally speaking, they have socially conservative leanings,
right.
And yet they went for Democrats. So there's something that's going on here. So
yeah, because I think there's a whole there's a big gap between, I guess, the general mode of conservatism in America and what the Republicans represent as conservative.
Exactly right. I think there's a disconnect between the two.
There's a big disconnect, So I mean, it's almost mute.
Yeah. So we got a call from
Isti.
All right. Let's see if I can do this right.
Just hit the button.
Just hit the button. Welcome to the Community Radio Show.
Hello.
Hey.
Hi.
Hi.
Assalamualaikum.
Hello,
Hadi. Hello, Bukhari. How are you guys doing?
Well, thanks. How are you?
We're hanging in there. Saturday morning,
Yeah, I overheard you guys talking about how Muslims in general are conservative and religious, and yet why are we not Republican-leaning? And I think the good answer to that is I saw this on BBC News the day after the election, and they were interviewing a Hispanic businessman. I think he was running like a convenience store in D.C., and they asked, so, what's his opinion on the two parties? And he said, well, actually, Hispanics have a lot in common with the Republican Party, and that is we're conservative, religious, and he said the only problem is they don't want us here.
That's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, things just start to make sense because I remember when in Henrico they were trying to build a mosque out in Impala Drive, I think.
Yeah.
Right.
And it was kind of contested in 2008. And finally they got the rights after, I think, going through some federal channels in 2011 trying to get a masjid there.
Right.
And what I noticed is that when I was watching the local TV show, there was a lady who said, well, not all terrorists are Muslims, but our Muslims are terrorists, or something like that.
Right,
it was horrible, and nobody corrected her. And I'm thinking, well, if that's all that they're thinking about us, they obviously don't want us here, and it's such an unfortunate thing because I think what that Hispanic guy on TV said was correct. There's a lot of things that we share in common with the Republican Party in terms of their agenda. They just don't want us here, and the problem, I think, with them is that they have a really good idea and they have a sense of strong morality. They just want to impose that to everybody else, and ultimately that's not what Islam is, what I believe.
Right.
And I think a lot of people who are religious and have their faith and they keep it private to themselves, they don't want to impose it on other people either.
Right. It's not good. It's not good enough that people have a sense of spirituality and morality based on their own religious beliefs. I think they try to cram their conservative religious beliefs and say this is it, and that they're not very inclusive. So let me ask you this, because we were what's coming down as far as this is that the minorities that voted for Obama were the ones that voted for him because they wanted a handout. So and I kind of asked this tongue in cheek, but I presume that you're since you voted for Obama, then that you're Muslim, that you're also on welfare.
Well, full disclosure, I did meet Tim Kaine and Mark Warner for Tim Kaine's campaign rally when he started in October 2011. And I met him again in April 6th. And oh my gosh, full disclosure, to get in, as a student, you have to pay a grand total of $10.
Okay.
$10. And let's see, in terms of welfare recipient, oh boy, you got me there. Yeah, we were welfare recipient when I was 3 years old, and my dad was a graduate student in Drexel, and we were one of the 47%. So he was making a measly $9,000 a year.
Right.
My mom and I, we were on the WIC program. That's the Women, Infant, Children program.
Right.
I was 3. But ever since then, haven't been on welfare. So I guess that's a good investment on us, huh?
Oh, yeah.
All right, that's good. So, all right, thanks for calling.
Appreciate
you're welcome.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
It's interesting. So I think that's that's the experience that my dad had years ago when he was being courted by the local Republicans out in California because dad highly educated, PhD, this so forth and so on, and socially conservative, but he goes there and he comes back and he's just like, they don't want our kind here.
Right.
Or if they want our kind here, it's based on their conditions.
Yeah, I mean,
if you
looked at during the election night, when they were kind of cutting back and forth between the Republican group and the Democratic group. I mean, on the Democratic end, you just saw a hodgepodge of different races, different colors, different tones. You switched back over to the Romney camp. It was just white folks, blonde hair, blue eyes for the most part. It was
older,
an occasional, it was mostly older, but I mean, it was still it did have some younger people that were there. Maybe one or two random black guys that's like, why? What happened? but generally, even just looking at just the two differences, just observing those two camps on national television, it was an apparent difference in terms of diversity between the two camps. So when you don't have diversity, but you're pushing for a conservative view, conservatives are generally, there's going to be a diverse, amount of people, diverse types of people that are going to be conservative. But when you say you're conservative and your camp is representing conservatism, but you look at who's there and it's not diverse, then, like I said, there's going to be a disconnect. There's something that's not encompassing of all
right.
people. It really is kind of like you got to be like me, first, and then we can, talk about your views and, see where we line up.
It's like, yeah, I mean, I give you an example. We had a couple of years ago, Chesterfield County schools, they were providing training for their teachers, and it was part of their continuing education credit. And this particular training class was being put on by through John Esposito's organization in Northern Virginia. It was about kind of like introduction to Islam, kind of, what's the Middle East, what's it comprised of, basic beliefs, this and stuff like that. And the uproar that came from the right here was, oh, this is just, they're teaching the teachers to be tolerant, and when you become tolerant, you let things go, and that it's just we're becoming tolerant to terrorism and so forth and so on. So you take that, and then fast forward 2.5 3 years later, which is about a year ago, they pushed forward through an organization from the South that does this through schools to teach Bible in public schools. And conservative, religious conservatives were completely behind. And it's like, wait a minute here, what's the difference? So it's like, we want faith in the schools, quote unquote, but not all faiths, not generic deity.
It's not gonna be a level playing field
for everyone. It's just based on. I mean, I think when it comes to the other policies, it's the same thing. It's just I don't like that you don't have a that your name still sounds foreign. I'm gonna give you an American name. It's like, wait a minute, I can still have my own name and be just as American as as you are, Bill.
Right, and browsing through this, I'm on WashingtonPost.com, just kind of flipping through pages here. And, the one thing that the Republicans were saying this year, a lot of the congressional leaders were claiming that the Muslim Brotherhood had infiltrated the U.S. State Department.
Yes.
And 80% of American mosques support Islamic radicalism. That's ridiculous. I mean, it's just making statements like that, at least from, with Muslims, that's not going to give you any type of support.
No, that's ridiculous.
And this is when the leaders of your party, quote unquote, are making these accusations. It's like you guys don't have any type of connect at all with who we are and what we're about.
So let's for our listeners, let me tell you how ridiculous of a notion that is. That would be like, imagine if people, elected officials at any level, and particularly at the federal level, stood up and said that 80% of the Catholic churches in America are fronts for pedophilia and sexual abuse of boys.
Right.
How ridiculous and frankly stupid, if I can use that term,
I like stupid.
Would that be? How ridiculous and stupid of a notion is that to put out there?
Right.
Based on the actions of a few. That's just the kind of that's the
mentality
that comes out from from that side, and it's just frankly like, hey, I'm not gonna
Right.
I'm not
because
gonna
then it's like
that.
How warped altogether are you? Do you think that every Latino that's in America is growing weed in their backyard or trying to move
illegally,
crack?
Yeah, it's here illegally and it's on welfare. It's
right.
That's the thing that pisses me off the most is when they talk about immigrants, legal or illegal. Forget about that. Of coming here. And somehow that's like, it's just an easy thing to do.
Right.
It's like, really? That's a really easy thing for you to pack up. When I mean pack up, I'm talking about a couple suitcases, not, not everything. And come to a completely foreign land on the simple premise that that land is providing you an opportunity for something that's greater than what you have. And in many cases, these people that are, the immigrant community, they don't have connections with people back home.
Right.
You know, I mean, now there's the internet and things like that that's made it easier, but still, to come here and to completely break that connection with your family and what you know and the comfort level and things like that, and somehow portray that as being easy. It just complete, you know, it's seeing the world through their own glasses and insisting that, you know what, you need to see the world through the same lens that I do. But
Right.
So you're listening to the Community Radio Show, 788-0990. We're talking about just a myriad of things. We're gonna take a quick break here. We're gonna come back and we're gonna.
So are we gonna talk about the legalizing of
myriad of things. We're kind of slowly coming into that, but I have an interesting story, kind of to touch on the issue of the Muslims and identity and kind of how people view us. You're listening to the Community Radio Show on WLEE News Talk 990. Your numbers to call 788-0990, 788-0990. We'll see you on the other side of the break.